Racial injustice is still a prevalent part of our society and has continued to divide our country. While slavery and segregation have been illegal in the United States for many years, in the past few months there has been an unprecedented call for change in our country regarding racial injustice. On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed by police officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota. While he is not the first black individual to be killed by police, Floyd's death sparked a series of ongoing protests and a surge in the Black Lives Matter movement. This is only one example of the racial injustices our country has witnessed for many years. We spoke to several individuals within the CI community about their lived experiences with racial injustice and how it has affected them.
So, being first gen in the United States, especially now, and being South Asian, I feel like the biggest thing that I experience on a day-to-day is the model minority myth. And to me, that means that no matter where I go, how successful I am in this society, whether that's socially or financially, my kind of achievements will be narrowed down just down to the fact that I am Asian. No amount of me doing activism will be seen as justified in the movement towards social progression. At the same time, I do recognize my privilege of being brown, but light brown. I understand my privilege of having an education. But again, I think that the model minority myth is something that we all experience in different ways. And it's definitely something that I notice every single day of my life.
I can definitely say that racial injustice has been highlighted so much during the quarantine. However, it's something that as a Black woman, I've been dealing with for my whole life pretty much. I've never experienced overt, blatant racism. However, I have definitely received microaggressions towards me. It can be hard because there are the stereotypes that some people use to define Black people in general. So that's definitely something that I have been thinking about and aware of for most of my life.
For me personally, I'm Mexican and I speak Spanish and I'm very proud of being Mexican, but I don't look like it. So often when I was younger, my mother has brown skin and so does my older brother. We'd go down to the mall and people would actually tell her, "Oh, is that your daughter or are you babysitting her?" They didn't think I was her daughter at all. And I grew up with that a lot, just having people question if my mother was my mother. And even though I didn't face some of the injustices that they did, I still grew up with the fear of having my parents being deported. It's just really hard to have people understand that this idea of the color of your skin, doesn't matter. The type of person that you are is what matters and not what you look like.
At this point, I'm just kind of getting used to racial injustices that's been going on for so long, but it's just kind of disappointing more than anything that we all just can't be treated equally. It's hard to understand why it takes so much pushing and begging and pleading just for us to get the same treatment that others are getting. But yeah, it's really just disappointing more than anything. It's kind of just discouraging, makes you not really want to try to do anything big because you think you're going to get kind of blocked off from it just because of the color of your skin. But yeah, I think more than anything, it's really just disappointing and kind of discouraging to me.
I have different perspective, especially now with everything that is happening in our world. We have a lot of racial injustice happening that's coming to light. It's always existed, but now it's actually been brought up. And, I have a totally different perspective from any Black members. Generational traumas, I feel like, have affected any racial injustice that I've faced, because stigmas exist, biases exist within your own community, colorism exists. knowing that maybe one of your family members is lighter than you, you know. Someone will prefer to associate themselves with that family member than having a deeper skin tone. Stigmas and biases come anywhere and everywhere, regardless of who you are, where you come from. It just depends on how you're raised and how you perceive and your perspective of the world.
Growing up in LA, obviously, you know, it's a very culturally diverse and ethnically diverse city. So I was fortunate enough to grow up surrounded by people of different races. Due to that, obviously, especially in like recent months, you are very like actively racially aware, if that makes sense. So just always kind of speaking out. If I ever hear anything that people say that I'm like, that's not appropriate, you probably shouldn't say that. I won't shame people about it in front of other people, you know, but it's something that like, if I ever hear something that is like offensive, not even just to me, but would be offensive to other people, kind of just taking that opportunity to like kind of nip it in the butt, if that makes sense, you know, just letting people know that although I'm not like a minority, I don't feel comfortable with people speaking badly about minorities or anything like that. And so that's not going to be tolerated in like around me. Like, yeah, you may not be a minority and it might not hurt your feelings directly, but you have to like always kind of think about, would you say something like that, or would you want to hear something like that?
Racial injustice for me, I didn't really have to experience anything personally in a negative way, but I do know that microaggressions exist. And so like there have been instances where people just mention my race and like expect me to know all the answers as an Indian person when they don't really understand my experiences, because I might not have all the knowledge of an Indian person coming from India, but I mean they kind of expect that out of you. But yeah, so that was one incident, but I do know that a lot of my friends of different races and ethnicities have experienced a lot more racism than I have, and it really like appalls me. Like it really does. Like it's disgusting.
When the sort of uprising started after the death of George Floyd, I started attending some meetings that were organized by very, newly activated young people. And the energy was fantastic. But I realized that there was sort of like a gap in knowledge. And personally, I think it's due to the fact that in the K through 12 system in the United States, we're not truly taught what has happened and what has gotten us here to this moment. The Read-In series is an action that we created with education to reach the broadest audience possible regarding learning African American history as American history. Black Reconstruction in America by W.B. Du Bois is one of those texts by a significant American historian. He's significant because he's the first Black, scholar who graduated from Harvard with a PhD. But average folks don't know about who he is and his work and the importance of his work. Reconstruction was trying to figure out how to put together this economy and how to figure out how the American government was going to work again. We're at the moment where this is happening again. Inside of that was a hugely contested election in 1876. And there's a lot of comparisons about this particular upcoming election to the election of 1876. So just for that fact alone, it's important to figure out what's going on. But also you'll see all of the things that led up and all of the events that happened in Reconstruction that have had effects for the next 2 centuries.
So if you're looking for what you can do, just educating yourself, spending the time with the material is an act of action. And it is a lot. And so it's on YouTube. If you can't make it to the premiere, you can go while you're folding your laundry at night or doing the dishes, just flip your phone up, and just take it in 15, 20 minutes a time here and there when you can. So for us, building this website and making it available and creating the project and for all of those who have participated is an act of action, of activism. You have power in that knowledge, in that truth. And so I was just really honored that Mary shared the idea with me, because it's a brilliant idea. And I was hoping that then other people would read it too, that we could just sort of have an impact on the world in terms of educational outreach.
American author and Native American elder Bois said, "It is clear that the way to heal society of its violence and lack of love is to replace the pyramid of domination with the circle of equality and respect. Our collective generations have the ability to abolish discrimination and make our world a better place. We encourage you to take action against racial injustice and discrimination, as they have no place in our future. One action, be it big or small, can ripple through society, creating waves of change."